right, guys, welcome to episode 4 of SEO Tells. My name's Itamar Blau. I'm joined with Craig Campbell, and today we've got a very, very fun topic lined up for you guys about on-page SEO. So before we get into it, please make sure you like and subscribe this video and leave a comment below with what's your most important thing when it comes to on-page. Like, what is it that you want to find out from this video? So leave a comment now, and then we'll find if we actually did answer your question. So that'll be quite a fun thing to test out by the end of the video. So make sure you guys watch the whole thing, because this is going to be a good one. And so what we're going to do, we're just going to start off about on-page SEO. For people who don't know, Craig, do you want to just give like a brief introduction of what on-page actually is?
So on-page SEO is any of the kind of things that are going to help your website rank that is done on the page or on the website. It's not link building. It's none of that stuff. So anything, whether that's a title tag, whether it's the content, images, anything like that are on your website. There's obviously different things you do with different areas, and we're going to go through which of those are the most important. So on-page SEO, for me, it's a core fundamental. I think we've obviously got 3 aspects of SEO which I think are really, really important, and that's off-page, on-page, and technical. You will have people saying on-page is the biggest aspect of SEO, but you're not going to rank that well if you don't have good technical or you don't have good links. And I think a lot of people are always claiming, or technical guys will say, it's all about technical. If you've not got good on-page, you've not got good links, again, you're going to fail miserably. So it's about those 3, and obviously on-page is one of the 3 most important things that you have to be doing in order to get rankings.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this thing's pretty much in a nutshell. And obviously the other topics like off-page, so the link building stuff and the technical SEO, we will be covering in future episodes of SEO Tells. But for this episode specifically, let's start with about doing your research, right? So on-page SEO, it's the things that you put on your page that will help you rank. And so what are these? These are, well, most fundamentally, these are keywords, right? So keywords are the kind of words that, you want to put them in because people are searching for them, right? So you need to be really, really specific about that. And the question is, how do we find which keywords we are to put on our content? And that's where keyword research comes in. So you'll have to kind of type in, and there's loads of tools, Craig, right? There's absolutely loads of tools that you can do keyword research on. So you've got paid ones like Ahrefs have one, SEMrush have one, but there's also free ones as well, like Ubersuggest. So obviously, if you guys, some of you may not have the budget, so use Ubersuggest as an example of a way to do free keyword research. But obviously, there's loads of different things, loads of different ways to do keyword research. But the bottom line is you just need to find what people are searching for and the keywords that have the intent that you want. Because there's loads of different types of intent for keywords. Somebody might want to search something up and they might want to get an informational answer. Somebody might want to type something on the web because they want to buy something. So there's many different types of intent. And obviously you need to do that keyword research and identify what that intent is.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think one other thing I'd like to add to the keyword research thing as well, just a little hack if you don't want to use any tools or you can't afford any tools. If you Google any search term, what comes up on the organic searches is the stuff in the bold blue writing. That's the title tag that your competition are targeting. That's what keywords they're going after. So it's always a good choice to, if you don't have budget, as some of us have never had. I started out, I had no budget for tools, and had to do it the hard way. So I just wanted to add that bit in for the keyword research. You can manually just look at the competition and see what they're targeting.
And to also add to that, what I found in the past that worked for me quite nicely if I didn't want to use tools is I would kind of have the vague idea of the kind of keywords I want to use. So I'll put that into Google and then I'd go onto the images tab And actually, there's a bunch of words that come up at the top, like suggestions for images. And a lot of times, these are very relevant keywords that people do still associate with the original search query. So that's another thing that's worked for me in the past, which you can do manually without any tools. But let's move on to the metadata, because you touched upon the title tags that competitors are using. So let's just get an overview of what metadata is, Craig.
So metadata is information that you're basically giving to the search engines as to what that page is about. Now, you've got your title tag and your meta description, which come under the term metadata. The title tag is allowed to be 60 characters long, and it's really, really powerful. I would say that's the number one most powerful thing you can add, alongside obviously the URL, which is not quite metadata, but we're going to cover that all in the one clump. So your URL would be something like pink dresses, for example. You know, if that was the main subject of that page, and you know, your title tag would be pink dresses or pink party dresses or whatever it was going to be. And then you've got this thing, the meta description. Now, if you Google and do any kind of search query, you see the bold blue title tag, and then just under that, you'll see 160 characters of text. Now, that's called the meta description. Now, 10, 15 years ago, in the world of SEO, people used to have them rammed full of keywords, and they looked really, really grim, to the point where Google didn't really give any weight to a meta description anymore. So there's no, at present, as far as I'm concerned, there is no real weight that's given to a meta description from an SEO point of view. However, it's still important from a click rate, trying to grab people in point of view. So I do think they're still quite important from that aspect, but you know, more from a click rate and trying to suck people in point of view, you don't have to have keywords in there. If you leave them blank, Google will just populate it with what that feels is most relevant to your page. And that's the case with loads of websites. Lots of websites I audit, you know, they don't have their meta descriptions. But, you know, does it make a blind bit of difference from an SEO point of view? No. Click-through rate, yeah. But the title tag is the most important thing. And having that URL, the title tag, obviously your content and everything else all aligned, you know, and, you know, having done your keyword research first, you want to make sure that you get after the kind of keyword of choice, or keywords. You know, it might be, as I say, pink dresses. You might have something like the best party dresses out there or something like that as well. And you know, you'll also be found for, you know, pink party dresses and whatever. So you might catch a longer tail bunch of keywords as well. Those are the most important things from a metadata point of view, in my opinion. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, you know, the meta description is always the funny one, because there's some people that would say, right, we need to get a custom meta description that's optimized for every single page that we have. And there's other people who say, well, you know, it's not really a ranking factor per se, but it's still important to get the clicks. And obviously, click-through rate is very, very important. So it's just quite interesting. I would say, you know, you don't really need to bother with like getting custom meta descriptions for all of your pages, but it's just useful for the ones that have very strong intent to have that customized, because people do still read them, right? Like I still read meta descriptions, but even if you don't, you know, Google is getting better at being able to kind of figure out what the page is about, right? So, you know, don't feel like, you know, don't kick yourself if you haven't got every one of your pages with custom meta descriptions. But you know, even the stuff like the titles, as you mentioned, very, very important. The URL, sometimes called, I think, the slug. They call it slug. I don't know why, but that can be very important as well, especially if somebody's sending someone a link. If the slug looks very clear, doesn't look very spammy, to the point, you know, people will want to click on it, right? As opposed if it had like a bunch of numbers or weird strings or whatever. So that's pretty much that in terms of the meta data perspective. But then when we also move into the other things like your headings, because headings are very important, and there's different headings that you can use. But the kind of way that I tell people when I talk to them about headings is just think of like the chapter page in a book, right? So you want things to be laid out in very, very chronological order, which means that, you start off with the H1. Let's say that's the title of your book, right? You're not going to have two titles for the same book. So you stick to one H1. And then when you've got your chapters, so like chapter 1, chapter 2, these will be your H2s. And anything in between, say chapter 1.1, 1.2, these will be like your H3s or your H4s. And you just want to keep it very structured. Even though Google have said in the past, like they'll be able to kind of figure out what things are about, and like they don't penalize you if you have more than one H1s or stuff like that. But just generally speaking, think of it like a book. Use your headings very, very, effectively if you are including keywords in them. But obviously, don't just be spamming the crap out of your headings. But they are quite important. So that's with the metadata and the heading tags. And is there anything else you want to add on to that point about headings?
I was going to say about the meta description. Think about it this way. When I was trying to buy something the other day online, and I was looking at the meta descriptions, but what I was looking for was next day delivery. So small things like that is what's going to get my attention as a buyer. Other people are the same, especially periods of time like coronavirus and stuff. You could even have something like open, still open or something. Things like that is what people are looking for. Next day delivery. You don't have to have a whole bunch of crap in there. People say, oh, but I can't really write. I don't know what to write in there. Things that you would look for, quick delivery, in stock, something, grab me, come and get my money. That's what I'm looking for from a meta description. Something that suggests, come and buy me now. I've got this in stock. So I think meta descriptions are best used for that type of thing. But everything else is on point there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's all really down to the intent, which is what we said previously. You need to try and match the user intent as best as you can. So if you are in e-commerce and you are selling and you are doing next day deliveries, update your meta descriptions. That should be the first thing that you say. Say still open, next day delivery. Check out the latest range of whatever pink dresses you want to buy, Craig. I don't know, but
I'm not a pink dress buyer.
I just thought because the examples you
I don't know. I've done that in a few webinars actually, where I keep referring to like bags and dresses. I don't know if I've been hit in the head or something, man.
I'll let it slide. I'll let it slide. But so the next topic we want to talk about with the on-page stuff is about the importance of having content above the fold. And so what above the fold means is essentially when you load up a web page, it's all of the content that you can see without needing to scroll down. So all the content that is literally, I think it came from the newspaper term, above the fold, but everything that you can see as soon as you land on any given page. So Craig, what is your kind of advice on how people could use the above the fold content on their on page more effectively?
I mean, I think it's something, people have different opinions on it. I've always been very basic in my thoughts on it. You've got to show people enough to encourage them to scroll. I don't think there's any, people talk about, maybe, showing more or getting a link in and all that kind of stuff before the fold and, all these crazy SEO myths and stuff like that. I think you've just got to show enough to encourage the scroll, even if that's a couple of lines of text to encourage those people to go down. And I know in most cases people should know to scroll anyway, but people that are navigating the website come from a wide variety of backgrounds and knowledges and all of that kind of stuff. And guys like my dad and whatever are on there, and if it's not in plain simple terms, then they just don't know what to do. And I get a phone call saying, Craig, I can't see anything on this website where it says sign up now or anything like that. And you're like, bloody hell, just scroll at the bottom of the page, man. But yeah, so you have to simplify it for people, and just make sure that they know there's more to that than because most people's websites have, a nice big fancy featured image or whatever it's going to be, and they've got to get that balance of graphic, nice looking, and some content. And obviously that content does go very often below the fold, but I've seen so many sliders that just take up the full screen, and you're not then encouraged to scroll. So yeah, and I don't think just having a wee kind of arrow or something at the side's enough. So just showing a bit of content is what I would be doing, and it's just simple as that. There's no more to it. I think a lot of people say other things and say it definitely impacts this, that, and the next thing. Obviously, it could potentially impact your bounce rate and stuff like that. People bounce on, see a nice big image, but can't see the rest of your website bounce back off, and obviously that's a negative for your website. But apart from that, I don't worry about it too much. I think, in my opinion, websites are built from a mobile perspective outwards now, so I'm not too sure how important the fold thing is anymore. As long as it works well on a mobile device, you're pretty much golden. But I'm sure people say, that's not fair, but yeah, that's the way websites are going, sadly. So yeah,
I suppose with a lot of sites as well, you can kind of change how the page is displayed on desktops as opposed to tablets and mobile. So obviously finding the right balance is really important, like you mentioned. But also you got to think about it from a UX perspective, right? So it's about what, you got to make life easier for the users. So if somebody goes onto a page and all they see is one massive image that takes up the entire screen, like, people just, I personally just think like, okay, these people don't really care too much about the way that they're displaying their content. So you just got to be quite critical, I think, about your own website and the way that, how you display your content. And pretty much like what you were saying, you just got to try different things out. Obviously have a mobile first kind of initiative, I would say now, if you are starting to kind of build a site today, then do that. But it's quite interesting because, like you mentioned, you will have different people saying different things. But that's why it's also quite nice just to see different perspectives and what people are doing. But now we move on to other things that relate to UX, which is page speed. So let's talk about that in the sense, I think personally page speed is really important. If it's not important from a ranking perspective, it's still very, very important for users. So what do you take on that statement, Craig?
I mean, yeah, 100%. Obviously, if you're on a website that's not loading fast and you're trying to buy a product or view something and it's, stagnating, the first thing you do is switch your Wi-Fi on and off and, whatever, and you end up buggering off and you're not on that website if it doesn't load quick. However, the flip side to this argument is I've heard so many people arguing that their website's still too slow and it loads in like 1.7 seconds, and they get obsessed with it and they want it to load in under 1.2 seconds. I think when it comes to that, the impact, either from a user or an SEO or anything else is very minimal. That points of a second. Of course, if you've got a 17-second load speed on a page on your website, you are going to lose customers and irritate people. There is no doubts about that. And I've no doubt in my mind that Google would also frown upon that as well. Because, Google's job is to serve the best pages for any given search term. And that's obviously going to include, fast loading websites, I would imagine. So to a certain degree, obviously no one knows what that actual threshold is. But I think, if you've got a website that loads in under 2 seconds, you're pretty sound. But I have seen guys out there that are, going from 1 second down to, 0.5 and, really, 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 getting obsessed with it. And I don't think getting obsessed with it is really such a bad thing. But, do things that are going to make a big difference, like maybe add some more content.
Yeah. I mean, we don't all need to be the Usain Bolt of page speed, right? Like, it can be as long as, I would say, under 2 seconds. You just think about yourself. You say, how many seconds will I just even get like a stopwatch, put a timer on, and then just kind of think to yourself, all right, at which point, if the site doesn't load, I'm going to just completely leave it and just do that. I think 2 seconds is perfectly reasonable time to wait for a page to load. Not everything is that instant. So obviously, if you do have the time and you do want to, chase the gold medal of page speed, then go for it. But generally speaking, as long as it's not ridiculous, like 17 seconds, then, just aim for it to be fairly fast. I would say just, going overboard, I suppose, is just down to the individual. But moving on to the last point that we've got here is about, writing comprehensive content that really solves a problem or answers a question. Because I think, when we think of the on-page stuff as well, and we obviously had the content marketing bit from last week, but I still think that comprehensive content should be like the number one thing, even when you're thinking of on-page stuff. So
Yeah.
what do you think of that?
100%. I mean, I think, what is comprehensive content? People have a problem, and they may end up landing on your page or FAQs or whatever it's going to be. And I think your content has to also have that built in, because people always say, you see it in Amazon or you see it in all the best websites, you go to a product and you scroll down, it'll say, does this glue hold, shelves onto the wall or whatever it's going to be, and I think as time evolves, you as the site owner are faced with phone calls, emails, live chats, and everything else. And I think if you can use that data, whether it's phone calls and you're constantly asked the same old thing, put it onto the website so that you can try and cut down in the calls so that your page answers everything and you don't have those follow-up calls. Because if, I'm selling something and it's, that pink dress that you're always buying, Itamar, and people are saying, asking a question about it, like, is it a zip or is it, a tie or something at the back of it, because they can't see it on the picture or whatever, then, our content is going to have to show a back-end picture of it, which it probably would anyway, but I'm just giving a hypothetical example. But also, we would have that in the FAQs, because what you want to do is give everyone the answer on your page and not have any phone calls. That is the end goal. That's the perfect scenario if your page has answered everything that a person could answer or could want. And even if that's, if you're selling like, bits of a washing machine or something, you might have models and stuff like that on there. Have a section on your website where people are able to do that online rather than mither you all the time. So I think, you really have to dig down and go in depth. And that's what I would call, comprehensive content that, solves problems or answers a question, from the general public. The flip side of that is you're always going to have someone who can't be bothered reading it and they'll just pick up the phone anyway. But that's where you can, try and get rid of that by having chatbots and whatever, trying to force people onto that FAQ section. Because, the reality is the phone calls out there for a lot of businesses are, in a lot of cases, not required. The information can be got online from a website. Well, it should be able to be got from a website. Most websites don't, answer everything, and that's where there's room for you guys to improve. But that's what I would call really comprehensive and perfect, the perfect page. But no one's got that. I don't even have it. But that's what I would say over and above what we discussed last week. Those are things that you can add to the mix to better your content whilst solving a client's problem and reducing, that client contact side of things.
Yeah, I think absolutely. And just making lives easier for everyone, like make your life easier, make your customers' lives easier. Really just, you don't want to be painful, right? Your website shouldn't be a pain for anyone, because if it is, then it's just not a good site. Like that's the kind of bottom line of it. But I think for this episode we've unfortunately run out of time. and I can see the disappointing look in your face, Craig. But definitely thank you guys for watching this episode of SEO Tells. Make sure you tune in next week when we're going to have an awesome talk about video marketing, which is very, very important nowadays, especially because everyone's at home. People like to watch videos. So stay tuned for that. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next week.